What's up, everybody? Happy Monday! Happy Mindfulness Monday. I'm happy to be here because I know in the last couple weeks I have not been as consistent, and I apologize for that. I have been traveling. So it feels good to be back. It feels good to have a structure. It feels good to be in a rhythm and be in a flow. And I know many of you have probably felt that when you're maybe taking some time off, you're traveling, you're doing different things out of your normal rhythm, which can be really serving. It can be really valuable to shift up your ways of doing things to keep your nervous system adaptable. And with that being said, I am grateful and happy to be back. So happy Mindfulness Monday. I wanted to come on here and talk to you all about trauma training and how the nervous system, what's up, David? How the nervous system processes trauma and how trauma actually gets, the memories of trauma and the patterns of trauma get stored in our physiology. Hey, Annie. Because this is a topic that comes up a lot, especially when I'm caring for people and I'll be feeling certain parts of the body and I'll say, hey, did this ever happen in, this year in your life? Was there trauma? Was there an injury? Was there something that happened? And people will be like, yeah, actually, when I was this years old, I dealt with this. Or it happens a lot when I work with people's cranium, for example, when they start to notice things in their head change. I'll ask, have you had any trauma at birth? Because birth, if there's trauma, whether it's like forceps or C-section or anything that kind of distorts the cranium, that if it goes unchecked, can manifest as stuff in your head or other parts of your nervous system down the road. And sometimes when I talk about this, people will start to share with their family members like, oh, my chiropractor asked if I had head trauma and I didn't even tell her. How did she pick up on that? That's weird. I don't get it. Hey, Natalie. And I get that it seems really weird, okay? But this is the physiological breakdown of trauma. We have to remember that trauma is anything, and if you're taking notes, now's a good time to take notes. Trauma is anything that happens to you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, any form of input into your nervous system that you perceive has more negatives than positives. You perceive there are more drawbacks, that you can't handle it, than you're actually resourceful and you can handle it. So this is why people will sometimes be traumatized from being in traffic. They perceive that there's way more negatives than positives. Whereas other people are totally fine being in a traffic jam for 3 hours because maybe they're listening to podcasts. For me, I catch up on I have this app called Voxer and I check up on Voxer messages. I listen to podcasts, I listen to videos. And for me, it's just a really good time to wind down. So I don't perceive traffic being a trauma, right? And that's a small example. But trauma is any time a nervous system perceives that you don't have the resources and you don't believe in yourself that you can overcome and that there's benefits to this experience you're having. That's it, right? That's it. I think sometimes when we think of trauma, we think it has to be this real, like a car accident or a rape or a molestation or something that's very perceived to be big, but it can be anything, right? It can be anything. So when we are even in the womb, in our mother's womb, our bodies are trying to figure out this container and we can get into weird positions. And then when we are born, sometimes there's assault to the upper neck. I've worked with a lot of people where they've had a forceps delivery where they're actually pulling on the head. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's causing trauma. But based on the mom's physiology, based on the baby's physiology, if there's more of a fight or flight, like, oh my gosh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, right? Perceived negative, then most likely that physiology, I think of the body as like a matrix, right? Your bio matrix is going to hold patterns. Because think of if there's a force here in your cells, and I'm going deep on this today, okay? Because I want you to get this. If there's a force here, on your cranium, your parietal bone, right? And it's pulling and you're kind of resisting as a baby, or the mom's body is resisting, it's creating this tension and it's creating this pattern in the nervous system to back off, right? Now, eventually babies are born regardless because the practitioner or the doctor maybe just overcomes that and isn't considerate of their forces they're using on the human nervous system. And oftentimes what will happen is, unless you go get checked by a chiropractor, if the baby has a pulse and the baby is breathing and they do like the Apgar test and you score relatively high, like you're good to go. But you have to remember, health is not just about like symptoms. Health is not just about those hitting those numbers. Health is like your whole physiological being, right? So fast forward, let's say this baby had trauma in the head region, like actual physical trauma, which then can manifest as emotional trauma, right? Like maybe the mom feels, you know, she did everything she could, but she feels shameful. Maybe the baby's in fight or flight because it's created distortion in the spine and the nervous system, and now that creates a stress cascade. And then that baby then grows up with a distorted view of the world because their nervous system is stressed out, even on a subtle level. And then all of a sudden they're perceiving these things in their life that maybe they can't get ahead, or that they're so stuck in their head, or they're always in their thoughts and they can't connect to their body. This is what I mean by a physical trauma, or a trauma that manifests as beliefs and thoughts and perceptions of the world. Literally, I had this happen with a gentleman where every time I would see him, he would have this like rush of energy and tingling in his head every single time. And I said, have you ever had any birth trauma? And he's like, I don't know anything about my birth. And so he went and he asked his mom, he's an older gentleman, he asked his mom, she's like, oh yeah, you had forceps and all this stuff. There we go. And he is a person where he's in his head all the time. It's hard for him to access his body. He's constantly in that hamster wheel. Do you get what I'm saying? So every part of your body has a neurological, trauma, emotional experience. And this is, again, we could talk about this for a long time. This is the training that I do to help people understand that your body holds the experience. And it's not even necessarily your body. This is really where I'm going to trip you up and trip your mind. It's not even in really your body. I mean, it is. It manifests through your cells, right? But if you think about it, you have a brand new body. Literally, your cells are brand new every 7 years. So then why, if something that happened 30 years ago that I haven't fully resolved and worked through, how is it that that's still occurring through space-time? Even though after 7 years, you are a brand new physical body. Well, it's because your nervous system is more than physical. Your body is more than physical. Our nervous system has fields, meaning our nervous system has these fields of awareness around us. This is why when you go into a room, you can sense the energy. You can sense if you feel safe, or you sense maybe there's someone in the room where you sense that something's off. Same thing where you start to pick up on, is someone looking at me? And you turn and they are. That is the sense I'm talking about. It's those fields of energy. And I don't know how deep I want to go into this. I'm going to be doing a mastermind on this, by the way, in the springtime. If you want to like actually go deep into this and go all quantum with me, I'll be launching that next year. But this is why, is because your nervous system is more than physical. You are more than physical. Look it up. It's called the koshas. It comes from yogic training, where our nervous system has these fields of energy that we can pick up on things, and that unless we're aware of it and we don't clear it and resolve it and find the benefit and find the triumph in the trauma, we are going to start to deal with physical ailments. Okay? So again, I know sometimes when I'm working with people, I'll be able to pick up on, did you have this when you were younger? And this is because of everything I've shared with you today, is because every single part of your body has patterns. Every single part of your body has expression of emotion and neurological trauma. If something was an assault to you, our bodies will literally hold on to these patterns, these energetic patterns, that with this type of care, we're helping the body clear and become more aligned and actually in the now. So you're not living in the past as though that birth is still happening or that trauma at birth is still happening. An adjustment, what it does is it brings you into the now. It brings your physiology into the now so that you can clear away those physical, emotional, mental patterns to fully live in this moment, because that is where the magic and the wisdom and the power of life is right here, right now. Because the past is no longer happening, but why does it feel that way? that's what we're trying to get to, is really helping you be more present and present time conscious. I think all of us would benefit if we were more present with each other and we actually held space and time in this moment. So I know this Mindfulness Monday is going a little deep here, but I really felt it was needed in the space, especially with everything happening right now. Everyone is in a state of hypervigilance, hyper-awareness. People are on edge. And I think the more that we can clear our own stuff, the less we're reactive with each other, the less that we're triggered, and the more easeful we can become in the present moment. Because when you're present and aligned, you're not thinking about what happened to you and maybe being a victim out of that. And you're not worried about the future. We let go of that shame and guilt from the past and let go of the anxiety and worry about the future, right? We have to get present, but it comes and it starts with understanding how trauma influences the nervous system. And one of the cool things I'm going to recommend to you is, it's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And he talks about this. If you want to go deep into the neurology and the science, he talks about when people are experiencing a trauma, again, anything they perceive as more negative than positive, that they show brain scans, and these people literally have never had like a stroke, but the brain of trauma is very similar in that moment as though it's having a stroke. Because when we feel as though our life is threatened and our survival is threatened, and there's more negatives and drawbacks, our left prefrontal cortex, specifically the dorsal medial lobe, will check out because it requires more energy to have cognition and higher awareness. It diverts the resources and energy. What's up, Milana? It diverts the resources and energy from the brain, from the higher brain, which isn't needed at a time of trauma, right? Because if you perceive your life as at stake, the last thing you care about is planning your future and your vision. You either are going to fight, flight, run, fight or flight, right? Freeze, which isn't ideal, or fawn. And this will probably be another Mindfulness Monday. This is going to be like a 3-hour Mindfulness Monday. But your brain needs energy in those areas of the brain to control your sympathetic response, to control the fight or flight response. So that's going to mean blood flow and energy diverting more to the amygdala and the brainstem than the higher brain. And the issue comes when we get stuck there. And that's why a lot of people who start to get adjusted and their brain comes back online, their body feels safe, they let go of those energetic patterns we talked about, they actually have different thoughts. They're happier, they're more aware, they're more engaged, they're more expansive, they can think about the future in a positive way, and they can also let go of what happened to them in the past and see the gifts and the benefits. And this is where energetics connect with physiology, which is something I'm super passionate about. This is where the body and the mind integrate, right? So today is a deep dive. I hope you learned something. Let me know if you learned anything in this Mindfulness Monday. If you want to go deeper into these things, I try to keep Mindfulness Monday anywhere between like 10 and 20 minutes. But I wanted to give you a preface of how trauma impacts the nervous system and how chiropractic influences recovery from trauma. And really taking that trauma, not that it's going to go away, but your perception of what happened to you changes. And then through that, you have different patterns, different thoughts, different awarenesses, different beliefs, different ways of being that then you pass on to future generations, right? I mean, that's what I'm all about, is like, let's not pass on these victim tendencies. And instead, we need to overcome trauma and turn it into triumph. And listen, you're talking to someone who has experienced a lot in my life. And I used to have a perception of like, the world is out to get me. I need to fight the world. And you know, I'm just going to be this angry person. To like everything that has happened to me, literally, this takes work, y'all. But literally, I believe that everything that has happened to me for a reason. Do I want to relive it? No. But why would I carry on this victim mindset if it's just defeating? It's exhausting. It's not good for your physiology. I can't change what happened in the past, but what I can change is my perception and how I carry it in my body, and know that I have triumphed over challenges and I have gained so many gifts in those experiences because I've changed my neurology, I've changed my physiology, and in turn, I show up as a vessel to support you all. So know that you don't have to be a victim. You don't have to carry those patterns. Most often, you're carrying it subconsciously. So that's what network spinal chiropractic here does, is helping those subconscious patterns you can't access because your brain checked out in the moment of trauma. We help you re-access those experiences in a way that's stable, in a way that is expansive, in a way that is safe. So you don't have to necessarily relive your past, but you get to integrate your past. You get to find the wisdom and the gift. So with that, I got my call coming up. I appreciate you all. Let me know what you learned. I encourage all of you who tuned in a little later to watch from the beginning, because I break down trauma physiology and trauma neurology and how to start to overcome it. So I'm gonna let you all go. Have a great Monday. Peace, love, and keep inspiring.